Take out a sheet of paper and divide it into two columns. On one side, please write the word and part of speech. On the other side, please write the definition and any helpful examples. Please pause the video any time if you feel that I am going too fast. The first word is derogatory. Derogatory is an adjective describing that which tends to lessen the merit or reputation of a person or even a thing. Derogatory describes that which is disparaging or that which is depreciatory, whether that's a comment or a gesture. For example, the public criticized the basketball team owner after he made derogatory remarks about minorities. Prestigious. Prestigious is an adjective describing that which has status or that which has glamour. Give the word prestige. Prestigious can also refer to that which is impressive or influential. For example, in this case, the privilege has to do with spending a year in Paris as part of a prestigious high school study abroad program. Rampant. Rampant is an adjective describing an object or an event or a person who is violent in action or in spirit. Something or someone that is raging or furious, rampant. For example, in the high-impact sport, concussions are rampant with long-term detrimental effects to its players. Ostracize. Ostracize is a verb describing the action of excluding someone or something from society, and that's usually done by general consent of the public. Ostracize can also refer to excluding one from not just society, but friendship or conversation or privileges. For instance, Bill knew his community would ostracize him after his release from prison, so he moved to another town. Pervade. Pervade is also a verb that describes the action of spreading through or spreading throughout something, especially in a subtle or gradual way. Pervade is very similar to the word permeate, where it spreads throughout. For example, Jimmy's excessive drinking is starting to pervade his life in a very negative way. Prowess. Prowess is a noun referring to exceptional valor, bravery, or exceptional ability, especially when it comes to combat or battle. For instance, Michelangelo, historically known for his sculptures and paintings, clearly possessed a prowess for art. Evoke. Evoke is a verb describing the action of calling up or producing something. Evoke is usually used to refer to calling up or producing memories or feelings or something intangible in that way. For instance, this book was apparently designed to evoke an interest in ancient sculpture. Keenly. Keenly is an adverb describing the action of having a fine, sharp cutting edge or point. For example, his loss was keenly felt by all those who knew him. Rot. Rot is a verb that is archaic in most senses, but it's a term that describes the action of working, but is simply a past tense and past participle of that action of work. For example, carefully wrought essays leave a lasting impression on readers. Wrought meaning carefully worked or carefully crafted in such a way to leave that lasting impression. Next is belie. Belie is a verb describing the action of showing something to be false. Belie also has a sense of to contradict. For example, Jason tried to belie the fact that he was a lousy worker by showing up early at the office. He wanted to prove that reputation to be false. Ambiguous. Ambiguous is an adjective describing that which is open to or may have several possible meanings or interpretations, something that is vague. Another term that we might use to describe ambiguous is equivocal. For example, with an ambiguous plot, no one could understand the film's premise. It was too vague, it was too open-ended. Similar to ambiguous is the term convoluted. Convoluted is an adjective describing something that is difficult to comprehend, especially when it comes to its meaning or style. Convoluted is different from ambiguous, however, in that convoluted usually is difficult to understand because there's too much going on, too many words involved, whereas ambiguous is just general or vague, could have different meanings, possibly. An example of convoluted is, although Janice spoke slowly, I found it difficult to understand her convoluted story. Validate. Validate is a verb describing the action simply to make valid, to substantiate, to confirm something. Validate. For example, the public looks to the nation's past to validate its core ideals and affirm a record of progress and accomplishment. Next is notion. Notion is a noun referring to a general understanding. Notion can also refer to something vague or an imperfect conception or idea of something. For instance, I have a romantic notion about who might live in the large house and what they might do for a living. That notion is not very clear, but it is a vague guess at what might be going on. Forbear. Forbear, while sometimes can be used as a verb, forbear also can function as a noun referring to an ancestor or a forefather. For example, his forebears fought in the American Civil War. Gentry. Gentry is a noun referring to people who are well-born or just generally well-bred, at least by their own consideration. For example, nobility and gentry were allowed to ride the coaches, but not soldiers and peasants. There is a contrast between those two groups of people. Autonomy. Autonomy is a noun referring to independence or freedom in general, or autonomy can refer to the will of an individual or one's actions they might partake in. For example, because students control their study habits, they have autonomy over their grades. Vocation. Vocation is also a noun referring to a particular occupation or a business or a specific profession. When speaking of a vocation, sometimes people will say, that is my calling. That's what I was called to do, a certain type of job or profession. For example, because of a lack of jobs, many have turned to retail as a vocation. Disdain. Disdain, while sometimes referring to a feeling as a noun, can also be a verb, describing the action of looking upon or treating someone or something with contempt, to despise, to scorn someone or something. For example, the woman looked at her male abuser with disdain as he walked into the courtroom. And finally, transfiguration. Transfiguration is a noun describing a change in form or appearance, to transform in some type of way. Transfiguration. For example, after his transfiguration into a Buddhist monk, all his friends and family were amazed by his newly found patience and tranquility.